Hello, Internet. Today we're going to look at linked list questions. These are fairly commonly asked during interviews. So the first question is finding out if a linked list has a loop. And the second question that we're going to look at today is reversing a linked list. I think these are both fairly important questions to know how to solve. They have a pretty simple concept. Once you get this, you won't struggle with how to solve these questions when you come across them. So the first question is finding out if the linked list has a loop or not. And this is important because usually when a linked list is traversed, you basically keep going as long as you have a next item in your list. And the problem is if your linked list has a loop, that means you're going to be stuck in an infinite loop because of this loop, you're going to keep going until your current item has a next item, and your while loop is going to keep going for a long time. So how do we find if a linked list has a loop? Is think of the scenario this way. So if we have two runners running on a track, and if the track has a loop, they're going to continue running forever. Let's imagine they don't get tired. But to find out if the track has a loop or not is, let's imagine one of the runners runs twice as fast as the other runner. What's going to happen is that the faster runner is eventually going to catch up to the slower runner. So to find out if there's a loop in the linked list is a very similar concept to this. So here's a basic implementation of a node item. This is also using generics, and this T conforms to the lossless string convertible, and it doesn't have to do that, but for the demonstration purposes, to be able to print items, I made it conform to this. So basically, it's a very simple implementation of a node with an item T and a next node. So we want to first implement this function hasLoop. So we're going to define two variables. Let's call them P and Q. They're both going to start at the beginning of the list. And here we're going to implement our while loop. Actually, we can start with, we can check the next item. So we're going to call this next P and next Q. And since we want one of the runners, as we spoke, to be twice as fast, so we're going to make Q go to next. So we're going to iterate our loop as long as we have next items. And basically, if next P equals next Q, that means our runners met up on the way, which means we do have a loop. So here we can just return true. Otherwise, we're going to iterate to next item, and then Q is going to be next Q. And this is actually it. This is how you would find if your if your linked list has a loop or not. Oh yeah, we can compare with the triple equals sign. And yeah, this is hasLoop. Okay, so now on to next interview question that is fairly commonly asked, which is reversing a list. So this is there's different ways of implementing this, and I've seen people use a stack and basically adding items onto a stack and then popping from the stack to reverse the list. But that actually requires more space. So not time, but space. So to do it differently, we can use three variables. So we're going to create variable previous. We're going to set it to null. We're going to create variable next. We're also going to set it to null. And we're going to create the current node, and we're going to set that to the list. So our current item is starting at the list. Our next and previous items are set to null. So basically here we can do a check if list.next is actually null. That means our list only has, assuming our list is the head of the list, has one item, so we can just return that list. Otherwise, while our current is not null, we're going to keep going. So here we're going to set the next item to be current.next. Current.next is going to be previous. So our current item is now pointing to the previous value instead of. So our current item's next pointer is pointing to the previous item instead of pointing to the next item. Then our previous item becomes current item, and our current items becomes next item. So we're still iterating through the list. Then we just simply return previous item. And this way we have reversed the list. I think it would be good to run some tests on this. So I created some simple list item here, list objects, or whatever you want to call it. So I have basically currently this 654321 is basically creating this. And when I say 6.next pointing to 3, the sixth item in this list is going to go around and point back to 3. So there is a loop. So what's interesting is, oh, and I have a helper function here, which is print lists. By the way, this code is going to be up on my GitHub, so feel free to download it and check it out. So because there's a loop, what's going to happen here is actually first this function is going to print true because we do have a loop. Then once we try to reverse the list, we're actually going to go into infinite loop, and you'll see it run in the console. So, so let me run this. So our console is constantly printing, and that's because we have a loop. And when we're trying to reverse the list, we're infinitely looping. So let me stop this. If I kill the loop, so I just comment this out. So basically, this doesn't exist anymore. So our list is our linked list doesn't have a loop. So when we run this again, our print is going to print false, and then we're going to reverse the list. And when we print it again, it's reversed. That's it, guys. I'll be making more interview question videos. Like and subscribe if you like these types of videos. Thanks for watching. Cheers.